have heard that song before. You might think that it's an Elvis song called Love Me Tender. It's actually an old song called Lee. But whatever you want to call it, we're going to learn it for solo guitar with one simple Travis picking pattern. So this song, Lee, or Love Me Tender, if you like, is a great old song, great melody. And in this arrangement, we're going to play it in the Travis picking style. Now, if you already play fingerstyle and play with your fingers, classical or whatever, you probably already know what Travis picking is. But if you don't, it's named after the late, great Merle Travis. And he kind of pioneered this way of playing where we very often play on every single beat with our thumb. So these patterns, when you hear things like Landslide from Fleetwood Mac, or the Boxer, you've heard that pattern in a bunch of rock songs. Even modern songs today will use that pattern. It's very recognizable, and it doesn't really sound classical, but it is a fingerstyle thing. I'm playing a nylon string guitar. Of course, you can play it on steel string or electric or whatever, as long as you play this pattern. So let's check the song out. But what we want to do first is get this specific Travis picking pattern under our belt without the left hand at all before we even approach the song. So we're going to play our thumb on the low E string and our middle finger on the second string at the same time. We can do free strokes, which means don't hit another string. And then your thumb is going to jump over to the fourth string, and your index will play the third string. That's the first half of the measure. So it's not all uniform. It's not all eighth notes like Landslide, for example, or the Boxer. We have a quarter note and then a bunch of eighth notes. So we're going to go 1, 2, and. That's one half of the measure. And the rest of the measure is going to be 3 and 4 and. Thumb on the sixth string, middle on the second string. Thumb on the fourth string, index on the third string. Thumb is always playing on the beat. So the whole pattern here is 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and. Now once you have that, take your index and middle and put them one string towards the floor and do it there as well. We're going to go 1, 2, and 3, and. So your thumb here is going to travel all the way to the G string. That's a big jump for your thumb. So some of you might not be used to having your thumb travel that distance. So it's a great exercise for your thumb, kind of aiming practice. So in this song, we're mainly going to do that last one that I did. At the beginning, we'll do the other one. It's really the same thing, just on different strings. But for the most part, we're going to stick to those treble strings that I just did. So let's check out the whole arrangement with tab underneath, and then talk about how exactly to play it. So there's our arrangement. Now let's walk through it. If you have the pattern down that we did at the beginning, we're just going to keep that pattern going all the way through the song. There's a couple of places where I put a quarter note in there instead of 2 eighth notes to help you get into transitions. So for the most part, it's not too difficult for the left hand. We're going to start out with our middle finger on this low G here, and we're going to leave it here for several measures. This is just a little intro kind of thing. You can play it as many times as you like. So we're going to transition from playing on these three strings, the fourth, the third, and the second, to the third, second, and first, right in the middle of the second measure. So here's our intro again. Now we have the ring finger here. So we're playing D with our ring finger, and then in the middle of the measure, move that ring finger down to the floor to get this G. Swivel over to get that F sharp, but keep the low G ringing out, and then back to this high G note again. So that first measure, it's the first measure of the melody, but it's the second measure on the page. So we're going. Now at that point, now I'm playing on the treble string, so my thumb is going all the way to the third string, and that's going to be true for most of the rest of the song. Now Now here we're pretty much set up to play this next part. This is an A7 chord. Pinky on the 5th fret of the 1st string, that's an A note. Then C sharp right here, the 2nd fret of the 2nd string. And we're gonna play A in the bass. So if we play all 3 of these treble strings, that gives us the sound of A7. Now all we need here, so you can think of this index finger here on this C sharp note as the chord. That's all we're having to hold down. And your pinky will come off to get our melody note, the high E string, open, and then bring it back. So we have... Now, if you're thinking about music theory, why not? Let's do it real quick. We're in the key of G. So G is our 1 chord, D is our 5 chord, and A7 doesn't belong. It should be an A minor chord or A minor 7. What that's called is a secondary dominant. It's the 5 of the 5 chord. So it just creates extra drama to get to that 5 chord that wants to resolve us back to G. So if you're keeping score at home. So we're going... Now right here, we have these 2 fingers down that we absolutely can use as guide fingers to get us to D7. So to slide them down to where we're on the 1st fret with the index, and then a pinky's on the 3rd fret, and add your middle finger here. And we're gonna end up on a D7 in a second, but right now it's a D7 sus4, we can call it. So back to A7. Slide down to D7, sus4. Now take your pinky out. Melody's all on the 1st string except for that 1st D note right here. Everything else is on the 1st string. Now I'm sliding that ring finger back up here to kind of the way that we started with that G. Now that whole first section just repeats. So it just happens again, all the same stuff. Now for the next part, we're going to play G. Instead of our middle finger down here on that low G, put your 1st finger there, and that's kind of a quick thing that we have to get to because we need to have our pinky way up here on this B note. B is still in a G chord. There's just a melody note from the chord, but we've got a big stretch happening right here. If you don't want to do that, you might do this an octave higher. Put your index on the 5th fret of the 4th string. You could do that, but it's a big stretch, but it's really not as bad as it looks. And you can get away with muffling the 5th string and even the 4th string because we don't need to hear those anyway. So we're doing this big fat stretch like this. Now right there, I kind of programmed in open strings. That's an open A and then to the open B, just to get us up to this B chord. This is like a B major or B7. There's another secondary dominant, by the way. That's resolving us to E minor, which is the 6th chord. So it's the 5 of the 6th if we want to give it a number. We're playing it like this. Our index finger on this B note on the 7th fret, go all the way to the 1st string, same fret with your middle finger, and then your ring finger plays D sharp like this. And this is going to happen again in a second. So we get 2 measures out of that. Now just take everything off but your middle finger, and now we're playing an E minor chord. But this is all the stuff you've been doing in the right hand. We're just taking our fingers off, except for this one. And then we're back to that B chord. Now here we're going to go back to this big fat G again. E minor like this, but we're playing a C note, and then I have one of these in here just to give us a B note on the way to A. If you don't want to do that, or if that makes it kind of weird for you, just don't do it. Just play that measure exactly as it was the measure before. In other words, just going G, E minor, taking us to A. What I have written down in my arrangement though is this. See right there, I'm going to a B note, giving us the sound of taking us to the A. Just some bass movement, just for fun. There it is, A7, exactly like we did it before. Now here we're going to play D7 sus4 like we did before. But here we're going to slide up and play D a little bit higher. So take your middle finger, slide it up to the 7th fret, and then tuck these fingers underneath all in a row like that. So we're still playing our pattern just on these 4 top strings. Sometimes it's hard to get these nice and clear because they all need to be close to the fret. That's why I'm stacking them on top of each other and kind of swiveling in like this. Normally we want to play like this whenever we can, but when we have more than one finger on the same fret, we need to swivel in so that they can all get close to the fret. So we're going like this. Take the pinky off only to get this A note, and this is the spot and the previous measure in my arrangement where instead of playing 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and I cut out the and at the end just to give you time to move. So we're going like this, 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Gives you a little more time to think about things. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, same thing there. And then we're back to this G chord, except we're going to end this with kind of a descending arpeggio. We're going 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1. But you could do anything that you want there in the end. You can go and And just strum G there if you like. Now, if you're just getting into this kind of fingerstyle playing, Travis picking and that kind of thing, I would map this song out first with just the melody notes and play block chords or kind of arpeggiate it randomly without having to think about some specific pattern or something. So that might sound like this. Really sounds nice that way anyway. So that allows you to map out the whole song of what's happening when, and it really gives you a lot more leeway because the thing about that Travis picking is it's not really Travis picking if you don't have that deriving rhythm, bum, ba-da, ba-da, bum, over and over and over. And yeah, it's hard to keep that going. So I would work on that first if that's giving you trouble. Do it the way I just did without being strict about anything, and then try to play the pattern by itself that we started with, and then try to put them together. So if you like this, you can get the guitar tab below, join my mailing list, and check out the versatileguitarist.com. I've got a bunch of guitar instructional stuff up there for you, and I'll see you in the next video.